What's happening, guys? We've got a Sunday scan coming at you once again for the 28th of December. We have a short week this week, and I'm sure we'll continue to have a lot of action. We had some impressive squeezes last week. We had some impressive unwinds, and what it came down to was being prepared. This weekend, Bitcoin is going crazy. It was over 28,000. Which is pretty nuts, considering my wife wanted to buy at 19,000, and I said, you know, I don't disagree, but let's wait for the next dip. And then it was 20 and 21 and 23. Last I told her it was like 24, so I'm hoping that she doesn't look for a little while at least. Maybe we'll get some type of pullback. But, this happened like 2 years ago, maybe 3, I don't remember, but it was like Thanksgiving, the holidays. And it was really the topic of conversation, and whether or not, who knows if it had anything to do with this year, because maybe not as many groups are getting together for Christmas. But, I'm sure the ones that did, it was a topic of conversation, right? Speculation is at an all-time high, but I think that, right now, the most, or the vast majority of people that were maybe on the fence of Bitcoin are starting to kind of rethink, like, maybe this thing is gonna work. Maybe this thing is legit. Banks are starting to adopt it, as well as you've seen MSTR, as well as a few other companies that are actually putting it on their balance sheet rather than just cash. So, that investors or, the company can appreciate some of the upside if it continues to go up, rather than just holding, cash, which is basically worthless in this current environment. I mean, realistically, if you just held cash in your bank account, now you can pay probably 30, 40, 50% more for that same house or that same vacation spot than maybe a few years ago. Same thing with some of these things for sale. I mean, the prices are going up, and your dollar is becoming less valuable. So people are, both investing in the market, investing in real estate, and, putting in other avenues besides just cash, such as Bitcoin, which, it's smart. So, cash is always king was the saying, but I'm just not sure that is true anymore. So, anyway, first and foremost, once again, guys, if you guys give a like, every time we get 1,000 likes, we'll be doing a pre-market 8:50 a.m. pre-market broadcast. So the past 2 times we didn't quite get there, but hopefully we'll get there this time so that we can go ahead and do that. Right before the scan segment, I will pick the winner for the Momo Traders book. As you guys know, just leave a key takeaway. Tell me what you took from what I said as maybe the most beneficial piece, the aha moment. And, that helps me, like I say every weekend, to help others, to help you guys, to maybe revisit something. One thing that keeps coming back that I've got a lot of feedback from, that it's just a simple thing that I said, which helped a lot of people. Wait for dip buyers to become pop sellers. When understanding the front side versus the back side of the move. Looking left, always look left. Things like that. Might be simple, might be something silly that, I just said, but it was just enough to stick and, really change the thought of, what exactly or how exactly a trader may look at the market. So, swing trades have been insane. So, for those of you guys that paid attention last week, UAVS was a fantastic swing. The idea was under 3. I was thinking 4 to 6. It went over 9. I didn't make it that far. But, regardless, it was that chart setup, which I'll go over a little bit. But the reason why I got long UAVS was because it looked like MVIS. And MVIS was also another big breakout. And then on top of that, if you think about everything that kind of moved at the same time this summer, you had IZEA. And so IZEA, do a quick look at the chart. I compared all 3. And 130, 135 was the base. I started to get long. Like I said, if the 150 started to base, if there was any PR, anything that came, this is the setup that's working. This is what is the market wants right now. And the sooner that you can adapt and identify what the market wants, the sooner you're going to start making more and more and more. So IZEA was fantastic. And I got long. I don't have a position at the moment. It went way faster than I thought. I was thinking 175 breaks, we get to the 2 and consolidate, build over time. But that happened all at once. It went 130 to $2. So fantastic trade. It went relatively quickly. So I went ahead and moved on. However, I'll be looking for it to consolidate in the 170 range for the potential setup for the next leg over 2. So we'll see what happens with that. PUBM, for those of you guys that watched Scan last week, my goal was long-term, bigger picture kind of vision here. However, I'd be trimming around a core. If it goes nuts, then I trim some and ideally rebuy some a little bit lower. But I want to hold a small core for long-term. And so the idea was, ideally, it comes into 25s, consolidates. It did exactly that. It actually came into the high 24s or so. So I had a great opportunity. And then 2 days later, it nearly kissed $39 a share. So, there was an opportunity there for 10, 11, 12, 13, $14 a share just about for anybody that was paying attention on Scan. Last but not least, Prague, PROG. I'm no longer there, but that was another one that went nuts. Blink took the calls, the 45, 50 calls. One of the strongest traits as a trader that I feel I have is the ability to anticipate range. Where this could potentially go, where it could potentially break out to, where it could potentially break down to. And so, that was something I looked at the Blink chart and I said, man, this thing's setting up. And if it consolidates, if it starts to hold this area and it does break out, if it does go as it's suggesting it wants to, then we're going to go 45, 50. So those calls both went, 4, 5, 600%, which was fantastic. I rarely take the trades. I rarely take the option trades rather. But when and if I do see a situation where it's like, I'm just not going to make it there with stock, then I go ahead and take that trade with options. You saw the same thing with QS. QS, I put out the idea that I thought I was going to have this major squeeze. And it was about, low 60s at the time. Originally it was 50s, but then 60s, I kind of reconfirmed my thoughts. Like, hey, I do think that this is going to have a ridiculous squeeze. And, it was hard for me to make it on any size as far as taking just the equity because you had to be okay with, $5, $6, $7 type swings. So I ended up with the 70 calls like I had posted. And, they were a little far out and, it could have been wrong. But, it's just about adapting in this market and realizing that, hey, I'm not going to make it there with a bunch of stock. But if I take calls, they were about 80, 90 cents at the time. There's a good chance that I make it. So they ended up expiring, but they were, they closed out at about $3, $3.50 or so, which would have actually converted into stock. So I had ended up selling the calls, but I ended up carrying a swing trade of equity long, and I just put it in a different account because I don't like to mix all these different kind of strategies, and then I don't end up letting it work, right? So as you guys saw, I posted it. I made it to 107 on only about a quarter size. I had taken some off in the 80s, the 90s, 99, and then 107 I think was the best exit. So, I felt great for like 3 minutes. And then, the after hours it went down. I felt like great. And then the next morning it was 120, 130, and you guys know the rest. So, pretty crazy, but, another example of adapting to current market situations. I rarely trade options, but I'm trying to add that to my book just because, that feels like the next logical progression, as well as the fact that, when I started talking about this, I feel like my strength as a trader, and I'm sure you guys see it day in and day out on these scans, because I feel like it really shines through, is that ability to anticipate range. I can anticipate where something would go, when it would open up, how much range it could have. And if I can just become a better options trader in those special situations, I have no real interest in trading options all the time. There's plenty of services that do that. There's plenty of people that do that, and they do it well. And I have zero interest in that. But I am just looking to take advantage of these big picture, special opportunity type trades where I know that there's a good chance I'm going to be right, but there's also a better chance that I'm going to be a day or two early. And if that is the case, I'm not going to make it there on equity. But if it's a bigger picture idea and I can commit some capital behind that option, then I'll probably make it there and be able to take advantage of whatever that situation is. So that is really my strategy with adding kind of options to the table. Again, adapting as far as what we talked about last scan. I said it before, I'll say it again, but just understanding that certain things are okay right now, and whereas it might have been a chase 6 months ago or a year ago, right now it might still be cheap, right? So I think that a lot of people, I get texts all the time from people that are not even related to the market, and sending me all these QS and DraftKings and all this stuff that they've made money on. But, it starts to make sense why RMG is going nuts, why FUBO is going nuts, right? Because guess what? It only went 30 to 40 to 50. QS just went to 130. So you have to think about how the average new trader, the 2020 trader, thinks, right? And this is only 10 to 30. There's still, a quadruple of upside if you compare it to QS. So, I feel like when you kind of think in terms of that, I think it's going to help you as a trader. I think that one thing that I talked about to Eric Wood and I mentioned last video is stuff like UAVS, MVIS, IZEA, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we know it's junk, but the people that are invested don't care. One, they believe the story. Two, they're in for the long term. Three, they're not expecting them to make any money. So when we look at it, we look at a balance sheet or the earnings, they're like, oh, those are awful. That is the worst report I've ever seen. It wasn't expected to be good, right? And anybody that's invested in it doesn't care. That's not what they're there for. So what happens is, shorts end up becoming the only sellers, and then it just kind of, it's a supply and demand game. And then as it takes out those highs, and the next level, you've got that squeeze. And so that's what we had on UAVS. That's what we had on MVIS. And then that's what we had on IZEA so far. So you just have to adapt that nobody cares. Nobody cares what the company's doing. Nobody cares what kind of cash they have. Nobody cares that they've been saying the same thing for 25 years and haven't done it. All that matters, supply and demand. And that's been a common theme. And the sooner that you get that, the sooner you're going to start compounding more and more gains, in my opinion. Bitcoin we talked about, Momo traders. Like I said, I will do that on the first part before I get into what I'm looking at next week. Swing trades we talked about, and again, a reminder, it's a short week ahead. So, that's really it. That's what I kind of wanted to talk about. Backside plays versus the front side. It's a common theme that we talk about. I would encourage you guys to check out FUBO and OCGN. FUBO, fantastic backside trade. I traded the front side a little bit, and it was one of those where, I was trading it pretty well, but then there's that one swipe, that one extra push that, all your good trading is, gone, right? And you either break even, or you have a small loser, or you get stubborn and you overstay. Fortunately, it didn't really run into a major issue on it. However, the next day, I had held some short over and we had a nice $3 gap down. It allowed me to scale into the trade. But I think that just a little bit of that pre-exhaustion, I was only in about 1/3 of what I maybe would have had as an ideal size, right? And same thing with OCGN. You get in there and it just goes to show you, wait for that next day. You don't need to be there that first day. If you guys actually looked at OCGN, the day that OCGN was going crazy and everybody's trading it, you had VUZI, UAVS. There was just like a half a dozen layup trades that were the easiest of the easy faders. But nobody saw them because they all wanted OCGN, right? So when you've got a dozen names just flying around, people are going to forget a couple of them. And it's your job to keep them on radar and take advantage of that. So we had some great stuff especially on Friday. Was it Friday? I forget. No, it was Thursday. On Thursday, we had some great stuff. We had FCEL on Wednesday and Thursday. We had Plug finally and PACB. Minimal drops, but the ability to size what you wanted. FCEL was fantastic. I will go over a little bit of that, just kind of looking for those things to start to roll over. Look left and let these things work. But that's about it for the start of this scan. We'll get right into scan for this the following or the week ahead anyway. But just as always, I want to remind you guys that it is process over profits. There's a lot of people that push profits, push you to join, push you to get involved because day trading has never been easier. As I preach every single week, it's not about that. It's about developing that foundation. It's about developing the proper process that's going to keep you here long term and provide some type of consistency. If you're going for the boats, the cars, the homes, and all that crap, you're going to go backwards. You're going to go the wrong way. And I can assure you that whatever goals you have today, if you start doing monetary goals, if you say you just want to get to X, all of it is crap. Because as soon as you get there, it's not going to be enough. You're going to need 2X, 5X, 10X. And it's not a greed thing. It's just the way life is. And, you think everything's going to be solved as soon as you get to X. But as soon as you get there, guess what? Your mind changes, your things change. You start to see what else is possible. And it's not a greed thing. And the reason I say that is because what I thought was possible maybe last year became possible every month in 2020, right? And when that happens, your mindset completely changes because now hey, this is possible, and it's not like I just want to dream big and I want to get there one day kind of thing. It is there. It's for the taking. If you have a good strategy, if you have a proper process, and I think that every time somebody sets monetary goals, you're just setting up for some type of failure. The other thing is you can always look at your P&L, you can always look at the equity in your accounts and things like that, but I actually hide my equity. I can see my P&L every single day. Typically, it's right here. And I can see all the positions, but I don't have the realized up there because you know what? If I have it, I'm going to start adding it all up, right? I don't have like one realized, right in front of me. I have all the realized and unrealized and, gains, losses, everything, but I would actually have to physically add them all up during the day to start counting. I don't pay attention to the little realized thing. I don't look at it until typically the end of the day. I have my buying power up there. Yeah, I could probably divide it out by 4, but I have it mostly hidden just so that I know if I'm getting low. And I think that this is very beneficial for a lot of people because, if you're getting to a 50,000 mark or a 100,000 mark and you're at 97,000 and you make your next trade, you go down to like 95. And then the next trade, you're getting closer. And then you just go for that 5K win, but it turns into a $10,000 loss, right? And now you're at 85. And now you're so zoned on 100. And now you're starting to trade your book. You're starting to trade your P&L, trying to get to that 100 mark because in your mind, that's where you need to be. That is not good. So always just trade your best process over and over and over and over again, and it will add up if you have a good process. If you don't know if you have one, go to paper and prove to yourself that this is what your best trade is. And with that said, a lot of people ask me, hey, I have a small account, what's the best setup for me? You need to find that out. You might not be a good short seller, you might be a great long trader. You might be a great weak open red to green trader. You might be a great ABCD setup, fail fall through momentum, whatever it may be. You can find that out on paper. And whatever one you do consistently over and over and over again, the best is your answer. Everybody just wants the answer. Hey, what should I trade if I have a small account? That's for you to find out. There's plenty of resources, plenty of setups to try out and get through. There's plenty of ways to try it for free without using money, without losing money, and prove to yourself before you put real money at risk whether or not what you're doing makes sense, whether or not you buy low, sell high, or short high, buy back lower. So that's it. We'll get right into Sunday Scan in a moment. All right, guys, this is the scan portion of the Sunday video scan. And as always, Cam puts the disclosures below. And basically, it's informational and educational purposes only. Read the full disclosures. We pop them up every single week on purpose. But as you guys know, these are my plans. This is what I'm looking to do. And hopefully, you can learn something from what my plans are for the week ahead. And first and foremost, Momo Trader's book. This one's going out to Matt Rice. He's been in the IU community for quite some time. He's actually local to me, but he leaves a comment every single week. So I appreciate him. I appreciate that. He's also in the Avidity Fitness classes. So any of you guys that are interested in doing some workouts each and every single week, we do it 4 times a week. Virtually on Zoom. It will keep you motivated. It will create more energy for you. And you guys will be able to maybe get a little bit more done as far as multitasking, which, speaking of that, this past week was pretty difficult for me, just because, I had some serious back pain, knots and whatnot, 2 weeks ago. And so I ended up getting a massage. And on Wednesday, Thursday, my therapist ended up testing positive for COVID. So here I am. I've been super safe, haven't gone anywhere, for the most part. I really haven't gone anywhere. And so I did that one thing. And so then I got a call on Saturday. So my mom couldn't come and help out. My wife was doing flowers last week for Christmas, and because she runs a florist. And yeah, it was back to what it was like in September when I just didn't have enough help, and I had a kid on my lap, had the other one wanting to play, and I'm managing trades. It wasn't good last week for a proper trading work environment, and I pretty much hit peak capacity across everything. So I am happy to have tested negative. I just got the results back yesterday. It took like 5 days, but they had a slight issue. I had to call in. I probably could have found out a day or two. So anyway, long story short, Christmas is back on tonight at my in-laws, and so hopefully this week ahead, I continue to power forward without all the interruptions that I had last week. But when you're doing a lot at once and one little piece is off, it's crazy how much you can kind of go off course. So especially, I have talked to a lot of recent, more dads than moms, but traders that are in the room that hey, I'm having a kid, hey, I have a newborn, whatever. But like the things that you don't really think about, but what you need to do as a trader, especially if you have a newborn on the way or a newborn right now or 3, 6, whatever month old, things that you're going to face. And it's very important for us as traders to have that window pre-market to just get in the zone and get a feel for what's going on in the market, as well as just mentally prepare and focus and zone in for the day. And if you're trying to juggle things between 9 a.m. and, let's just say 10:30 and 11 a.m., I mean, that's got to be your time. If this is your thing and this is, your main source of income, then you need to make sure that period is covered. And when it's not, I mean, that's what I went through last week. And, I've got to be fair too. My wife's got to do, flowers. That's her passion. It's not just about me. But you realize just how much goes into this. And if anything's off by that little bit, it's really gonna impact you. So anybody that's out there that has kids, new babies, whatever, kids on the way, be aware. Make plans. Make sure that you've got some type of game plan. Involve your family, whatever it may be, because you're gonna need it. So, FCEL. FCEL was great. 2 days in a row. This was just a killer one. This may not look like much, but this was a lot. And, the good thing about FCEL was you can trade any size you want that you're comfortable with. And so, that's what I did. It did have that big pullback. You should always assume, just like we assume things are going to fail when they test key levels, you should always assume that it's going to want to hold view up. And so it did. And so what was annoying for me, I covered a decent chunk, but I was being not cautious. I was being patient in my bigger picture account. My goal was to swing it actually short. But I was at 1268, and this thing hit 1270. So I had a 1268 cover and about half, and then I was going to rescale in for the short swing. And, it just bounced right off 1270s. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But that happens. That's trading, and that brings up that situation where I had told you guys I'm weakest, right? Where you've got XXXXXL size, you nail the trade, you miss it by a couple pennies, and it goes whoop, 30, 40 cents. May not seem like a lot, but it is when you're sized up. And so then you have to be like, all right, I'm going to size down. I'll resize up. It is what it is. Because otherwise, that's when you get into those situations where you are sized and it starts to go against you and it adds up fast. Or, those unrealized gains go by, they're gone fast. So anyway, the next day I was hoping for higher the better. The next day I was hoping for some type of gap up, push, and retest towards the prior highs. So you've got the prior high spot. The best kind of trade, what could have happened, the ideal trade that I want is some type of good push into the morning, either pre-market or into the open, and retest that prior high. Or at least maybe in this range. So 1360s up to 1390s. That would be ideal range for it to stuff into. Prior day's highs. Guess what? It did exactly that. So I went ahead and got short and flushed out. You guys saw that trade. So here comes the spot where, tomorrow, where I either get short, let the trade work, it unwinds nicely, or it starts to base over here at this, low 12 range, 1220, 1250, and I behave. So after 2 days of big scores on it, you want to go back because you're confident, you're seeing it right. However, if it starts to go the other way, this is where it's very easy to give back a lot, get chopped up, try to force a trade because you crushed it 2 days prior, 2 days in a row prior. So for me, my antenna has to be up. Hey, just because you crushed it 2 days in a row does not mean that, day 3 is going to be equally as, great. So I need to see this thing prove. I want to see it pop towards ideally 1270s and continue to fade off. We'd need some type of market agreement. We'd need Plug and BLDP and all those other sister names to also fail to follow through. So I think we're going to have some great opportunity, but I want to assume that it's going to base 1220, 1250s and continue on its merry way higher. But if it doesn't, I want to be there for the fade. This is a crazy squeeze. But, if I sit here and say that, it ran too much, that's like me saying that on Plug, which has the same chart. That's like me saying it on PLTP. So why would I sit here and say it's ran too much, right? You got to have an open bias. You have to be open to all these different things right now. It's still 2020, and anything is possible. PACB has been another one. Basically went 50% in the week. This offered a great opportunity. And for me, I had put some on. So I put some on early. And, you know, I always like to dabble and get in there. And that's why I always tell everybody, you know, I have a starter position, but I need to see failed follow through momentum. I need to see it fail versus VWAP. I need to see it continue to take out key levels. So, you know, we had exactly that. And, you know, you had this pretty much pullback under VWAP, retest, fail, and completely unwound. And, you know, this might not look like much either, but, you know, from basically this point to right here, this was $1 per share. So even if you had a couple thousand shares, you know, that's still a great trade for a lot of people. And, you know, the ability to kind of scale in, let's just say you started in 500 shares for a feeler, you went to 1,000 and you went to 2,000 after it broke down under this key support. Then you get that flush, a couple thousand shares. That's a great trade, and your original risk was what, maybe $100. So you know, that's how I turn maybe a 3 reward 1 risk type trade into, you know, a 20-30 to 1 type of reward to risk type ratio, right? Because you're scaling in with the house's money, and then the bottom drops out. But don't be greedy. You know, when that thing opens up, be there. Because in this market, it's thin and it's thin back up. So you always want to be there to go ahead and at least size down. Mara and Riot, I think these are going to be some popular ones. The thing about Mara is they had a you know, shelf, and it's now effective, right? So that brought in a lot of shorts. A lot of shorts. You know, I shorted based off of that. Same thing, Riot, just based off that. A little bit of Bitcoin was kind of consolidating sideways / not really down a lot, but trending down a little bit. So it did give pressure, gave great trades on Thursday. But Mara also, you know, a nice little chart break, and, you know, people might have a little padding from 13, 1250s. You know, I have no position on Mara, but I feel like given the fact that it's got the shelf that's effective, they can literally raise, you know, at any moment. I feel like people will be patient with that, thinking, you know, I've got a $1.50 padding, I'm just going to let it work. All of a sudden, Bitcoin goes from 23K to 28K this weekend. Well, you know, shorts are going to be on the wrong side. So I would expect the 4 a.m. gap like crazy. Riot too. I'll be trading both of them, probably more Riot than anything, but expect gaps. You know, who knows? And, you know, Bitcoin could potentially... all right, we're back under 27,000 now. It went all the way up to 28. So, you know, like I wrote on Twitter this weekend, you know, I'm not bearish Bitcoin, but I do think there was a little state of euphoria where, you know, everybody, like, for example, me, when my wife wanted to buy at 19, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to wait for the next dip. Next dip never came. Then it's 20, 21. You're like, okay, next dip. 23. Okay, next dip. So then there's this point, and, you know, not as a professional trader or somebody that trades the market every single day and can control their emotions, but most traders are going to be like, oh my gosh, I need to get in before it keeps on going. So, you know, 25 comes 26, all of a sudden they're just like, all right, I'm in. 27, 28, it's fine, I'm in. And then we get this pullback, and then we get the freak out, and that's when I'd be interested. You know, and I think that, you know, this type of move is it's not healthy. It could be sustainable, but anything that goes, you know, up from 18 to 28 that fast, I mean, this is a huge market cap, or whatever they call that. But, you know, the total value is huge. So that's a lot of wealth creation. So anything that happens that fast, it's healthy for things to come back, consolidate. So we'll see how this works out. But, you know, I definitely would love to see it. You know, everybody gets excited, chases, flushes them out, flush out again. And then, you know, I might be interested. But Riot, Mara, you know, it's tough to make a call right now. I would expect big gaps. I would expect some squeezes. And I would expect some great trading. I mean, I would expect a couple bucks of range. And, you know, once again, you don't need to step in front of it. But I think we're going to have some great opportunities. These companies are just in the right place at the right time. They probably don't deserve the market cap that they have, but it doesn't matter, because people are buying them because it's Bitcoin related. FEYE, great one. This was a nice trend join on Thursday. I was way late, but you can see, even if you miss it, wait for it to kind of retest that VWAP level, failed follow through, and until it starts to basically form a base, which, you know, as it did right over here, it was a pretty nice fader. So I'd be looking for the same thing again. Basically, when I look to get involved, I look left, and you can kind of see that we've got, you know, a little bit of a support level, 2220s, and a little bit of resistance, 2270, 2280. So any good pop towards or over that level, I'd be looking to fade it. And I'd assume that this level wants to hold until it starts to peak out, and at which case then I would scale and or be patient with the trade that is working. Plug, another one that was a great trade, but again, when these things open up, if you scale into it and it just the bottom drops out, more often than not in this market, the thin flush outs is your cover because it snaps right back up. So again, you know, a couple little things you can use. Look left, prior high, you know, blew everybody out. Their stops that was using high a day as their stop, and then ends up pulling in, fades off. I think we're going to have a great trade coming here. You can see that the key level is 3470s. So the reason I say that, the reason I look at that is if I'm going to be patient and thinking we're going to fill a gap back to 33 at some point, 32, 33, then I need to wait for 3450, 3470s to peak out. That's the only way I would want to be patient with that. Otherwise, I want to assume that every flush under that level is going to come back up because there is a buyer in the tape for now. And until the tide turns, until the market turns, you should assume that it's going to continue to get bought up. Givo was great. Some nice ones in the room, some nice shorts. Got this short covered actually at the bottom. Kind of positioned in between 390 and 420s. But covered most of it into this VWAP level. And I ended up putting a little bit more on after hours just on the short side. But my goal would actually be a gap up. Why would you be short but you want it to go up? Well, because I have a very small partial position. So my goal would be ideally a push up towards 4, failed follow through, then, you know, some type of patience under 380s if it continues to fail, and then, you know, next key level probably 350s or so. But this is a huge chart. You know, again, a 2020 kind of, you know, craziness type of theme. And, you know, you just got to adapt, and it is what it is. So, RMG, major trade. I think we're going to have a big trade, you know, just like FUBO, right? You got to stock these things. You got to stay familiar with them. You got to keep them on radar. If you don't, you're going to miss out. And, you know, so while I'm not going to stand here and say I'm, you know, biased in any one direction, hopefully we get a 37, 38, 40, 45. But if not, then, you know, I'll be looking for some type of fails, you know, versus 35 range or right over here, 30, you know, the VWAP level, stuff like that. But for now, higher the better. And I'm going to set price alerts. It should be a great opportunity. Same thing, NNDM. NNDM is a great example of not setting price alerts and missing a huge potential. This right here, perfect failed follow through, perfect double top. And, you know, I'm not here to say, you know, you could have shorted the top, but, you know, then you had failed follow through. So now you've got failed follow through, lower high confirmation versus this prior high, which I'll put in another line. So now you've got basically a dime. Let's say you got in a little late. Let's just say you got 15-cent risk. Scale into the trade. You've got another confirmation right over here. You've got a confirmation at VWAP. So you've got under, flushes out, retest, fails VWAP, and starts to fade off. So you literally had a dime risk for that potential of a 2+ move. I totally missed it. But, you know, price alerts would have helped that. This is picture perfect failed follow through setup. So study this chart, print it out, put it on your wall. This is what we want to see. We want to see a double top at this price level. We want to see failed follow through, 2 lower highs. Then again, the prior support level right here, you can draw a line across. I'll just draw a bunch of lines so you guys can see it all. So then the support becomes resistance, then it comes under VWAP. The VWAP potential support becomes resistance, confirms, and then the bottom drops out. So hindsight trade, did not take the trade, but this is one of those where you can just literally learn so much from looking at it. I had to share it. But ideally we get some type of trade here where, you know, it gaps up and then maybe we fill that gap on the daily back towards, you know, 750s, something like that. But FUBO, I'll be keeping a watch. This one was fantastic. I actually still have a small short, but I'm hopeful for a gap up. I was short and, you know, I got short. I ended up adding into the overnight short and got a good piece of the trade. We had a great alert in the room on the 8-point target. Forget who it was, what firm it was by, but I mean, it literally just came apart. So, and I think we've got a lockup coming and a bunch of good stuff. So let's see what happens with that. Other than that, continuation side, as you guys know, I split this into my main watches, failed follow through, and continuation setups. So continuation setups for me, CSCW, this was a gapper idea. You know, so far it was, you know, a great trend. You know, first and foremost, you got to look at the chart and, you know, what's your risk, right? So it broke over the chart resistance, right over here at the 65 level. And, you know, to me, it was worth that 65, 64, 67 kind of scoop versus 60 risk for the potential, you know, upside. And it had the volume, had the trend. It did the, you know, the jumping around the VWAP level, and then it came back up late day. And as mentioned in the room, potential gapper. And, you know, we literally almost got up to, you know, 90 cents or so, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, I guess 90 cents. And so there's a catalyst moving forward on this one. So I think it's December 31st. You know, lower the better. And if it holds trend, you know, looking for a continuation into year end. But, you know, I'd prefer lower the better just so I can start to reaccumulate. Like selfishly, I'd like to reaccumulate a little bit without it, you know, running too far. But I think, you know, there's potential here and it's worth keeping an eye on it. So COUV, you know, not your ordinary kind of name that you'll see on this list, but, you know, one that I've been holding for about 3 weeks now. Battery play, mentioned it, you know, it's had good volume, good accumulation. Had that run up, pulled back, consolidated. You know, anybody that, you know, made it through to 2 cents, 3 cents, rejoice, 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 panic, work them all out. All of a sudden, we're back through the 3. That's what really got me interested with the ABCD type setup. And then, you know, just the story here. I think you can look anywhere online, but you know the comparison to QS and all that stuff, I think is, you know, it's all about right now. It's all about the story, right? And so if they paint this story the right way, you know, people in this market start going, oh my God, this thing's $120 per share. I could buy this one, which is, you know, maybe almost as good, and it's only 8 cents. Or it's 20 cents, or it's whatever it happens, or it's a dud, you know, and that's always the case that's possible. So, like I wrote on Scan, you know, I don't want to drink the Kool-Aid, but, you know, so far so good. You know, it's gone from 2 to 4 to 8. It's doubled twice for me, and, you know, we'll see what happens. I'm just letting a good trade work. But, you know, I think that if people start to do a little bit of research on what Zapgo is and the relationship with another popular name that's out there, I think they'll start to see why there has been so much interest in this recently. ANTE, you guys know, same thing, just like MSN, same kind of thought process there. Nice breakout so far. Idea was not to chase it. Idea was 120, 130s. IZEA, you guys know the deal there. We are testing this big area. So I'm out of it, like I said earlier. Assume it's going to fail, but you know, you always want to look left. Assume it's going to fail that level. The volume is a lot lower. But if we start to base at 170s and set up for a nice breakout, these guys always like to support with PRs, so you never know. We are in a different market. And like I said, the idea was same as UAVS, same as MVIS. You just have to adapt to the current market situation and understand, what the market wants right now. And they want these setups. So why not take them? And so that was really my thesis on that UAVS idea that I gave under 3. And, it worked out fantastically. And as always, I sell too early. But, we all got to get better at some point. ENG, potential gapper. I did take a position on that on Friday or Thursday. Neuro, this was an idea for dip buy potential. Talking about that big volume day and then scoop. They absorb it. SLGG. I actually was in this for a swing, gapped up, came in way more than I thought. So I said, you know what? Screw it. I'll move on. It proved that it wanted to hold the next day, so I got back in. DRTT. Nice chart, no position. I'm going to set some price alerts. We've got a potential breakout setting up there. TGA was a nice trade from a while ago, if you guys remember, in the 70, 80 cent range. Went all the way up to, it actually went to 150 after hours. I don't know if I can do this quickly on here, but it was a couple weeks ago, and it went nuts after hours. Yeah, right here. And I was the only seller. So, I got out of my position for the most part. This move all the way up to 175. There was a bidder, I think it was 159, 140s, 139, and I was just like 40, 50% premium to close. Thanks. Have a nice day. But other than that, I've got a few more under the staying familiar section. If you guys click through, you can see the staying familiar section. Basically what I do is I put price alerts on those. And I want to stay familiar with the charts. It helps me, okay, if this happens, I know I want to be long. If this happens, I know I want to be short. But at least I'm familiar with the chart. I can go back and look, at Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, scans, and just kind of review how they've set up. So by putting a bunch of names on here, I know I was interested in them. I can go back, see where the chart is, because these charts update. And see if I'm, potentially coming into a potential trade. So anyway, guys, have a great weekend. I hope you all had a great holiday, great Christmas. I think that's about it. We'll see you in the room. We're coming into the year end. So, do whatever you got to do to get prepared for the new year. Stop making excuses. Everything that you've put off, all these changes you're going to make in the new year, start them on Monday. Get them, get the ball rolling, get it in motion. There's no reason to wait a couple more days. And we'll see you guys in the room. Thanks for listening. Give a thumbs up as always. Leave your key takeaway. We're giving away t-shirts next week. And we'll see you tomorrow.